And away we go. Alright, so let's see what me, Eric, or Risk have sent in our podcast group chat since who knows when. Looking at, well, whatever goes on in today's world. So, the first of these videos comes from TikTok. That's the first in a very long time. And there is text within that video that reads, "The reason why Marlon is being mass unfollowed is truly unbelievable." I'm not sure. Let's see how this goes. Because surely, sounds like a big deal. Imagine the massive fall from grace. What tragic event could have happened to this guy? Well, we're about to find out.
Popular content creator Marlon is currently being mass unfollowed, and the exact reason why is truly unbelievable. So for those that did not see, just a little bit ago, it was revealed that Marlon decided to propose to his girlfriend. His now fiance posted the full video on her social media platform for everyone to see, where Marlon got on one knee and asked her to marry him, and this has upset Marlon's entire fan base. His entire fan base is basically girls obsessing over Marlon, the way that he looks, and them, believing that they have a chance with Marlon. But now, after seeing that he is getting married to his girlfriend, that no one even knew he had a girlfriend, this just basically ruined his entire, image for them. So this has caused many people to start mass unfollowing Marlon, because he's now obviously going to be getting married and he's no longer single. And that just really once again, ruins Marlon's entire image to a good majority of his fan base. Definitely a very interesting situation, that is for sure. And I'm just really curious to know your thoughts about all of this.
Marlon's getting married, and now his fans are unfollowing him because his supposed fan base don't have a chance with him anymore. If Eric was on here right now, he would react the same way I would. He would be dumbfounded as I am by this. I get it. The internet is not perfect. There's got to be issues. There's got to be stupid moments as well. However, of all things I've seen this year, that has got to be the most dumbest moments I've ever heard, ever this year. I am beyond speechless now at this point. I don't know what else to say to this. It's ridiculous, man. You should be happy for your favorite creators. You should be happy that they're going to have a great life together with their significant other. Why do people gotta be jelly and trying to sabotage others? I mean, there's people I went to school, college, and university with, although I call the latter the trap, for mainly obvious reasons. There's people in those three I don't get along with. We have our differences, and I know for sure that things will never be great between us. Yet I still say that good for them if they go on to do great things and go on to have a great life with their significant other. This is, again, I'll say it again. There's no other words I can describe this. Many people mass unfollowing Marlon just because he is engaged to his girlfriend, now fiance, and a lot of his fan base, being women, are upset that now they don't have a chance to be in the same position as Marlon's now fiance. I've heard a similar concept like this happen before, mainly in the world of K-pop, whether it be boy K-pop bands, girl K-pop bands, or even a mix of the two. I've heard, and I know well that there is a rule in K-pop groups that members are not allowed to date anyone whilst they're in the group, because it ruins the illusion that their fans will never have a chance to be in a relationship with one of the members of said K-pop group. And then the thing that is what K-pop groups and organizations relating to K-pop artists are relying on. They are counting on K-pop groups' fan bases to fantasize being in relationships with one of the artists or members of those groups. And it's working. It absolutely works very effectively. And I think if Marlon had shown everyone his girlfriend at the time sooner than expected, now, not to say that that wouldn't take, or that would not, that is not to say that his supposed fan base would dislike him less. At least you know where people's priorities are. At least you got rid of the worst of the lot as soon as possible and continue with life. However you want to continue with life, as authentically and as genuine as possible without having to adhere or seek validation from other people. So yeah. Alright, next video comes from Instagram Reels. And starting off, there's text edited in the video release that says, "Release Ebola." Oh dear, I'm not liking this already. Well, let's see how this goes and whatever people have to say on it.
To all of you, the hentai virus is now out of the news cycle. They've now replaced it with the deadly Ebola outbreak in the Congo. But thankfully, the people are not having it.
Currently, I am in the Democratic Republic of the Congo for a couple months, okay? And there's no Ebola here. Everyone is living the best life. No one is panicking.
Mining gold is one of the top businesses over there, and it releases high levels of arsenic, which leads to arsenic poisoning, and arsenic poisoning and Ebola have the same symptoms. And again, they're using the same fraudulent PCR test to see if you have it. Even Tedros from the WHO came in for a photo op. This guy claims it's so deadly, but he walks around with no protective gear. Same with CNN. And guess what? Moderna just landed a $50 million funding to create an Ebola mRNA vaccine. And the funding came from CEPI, which is bankrolled by the Gates Foundation. You can't make this up. So the question becomes, why the Congo? This country sits on top of almost $500 billion worth of gold. And as war expands, gold takes value. Congo also leads the world in lithium, copper, and cobalt. Exactly what you need to build these electric cars and data centers. There's no coincidences here. You poison the people or use something that's already there. You build a narrative to control the area and you drain the resources. So just like every other pandemic, this story needs to stay where it belongs.
Well, that's not very nice. And I'm not talking about lying to people about Ebola outbreaks and people being affected with Ebola. I'm talking about abusing an African nation for its resources, given how valuable it is when it comes to using these resources to make the products that we use and also the valuation of these resources. That would make anyone that has any shares in these companies affiliated with these resources very, very wealthy. So yeah, that's my perspective and my take on this exact video. Of course, even when there are people in this world, given the experience we had with COVID, they're not they're going to be very skeptical now about any reports of any virus or disease that exists. That is not to say that you shouldn't take the time to understand these viruses or diseases, and of course seek health experts to get an understanding of what is going on with your body and what you're being affected with. That's an important difference that's worth noting. So yeah, it's unfortunate that even when people living in the DRC are saying that there is no Ebola outbreak, that there haven't been many cases of Ebola anywhere in the African nation, yet there are people, whether it be the WHO, organizations relating to disease prevention, or another third thing related to the cause, they're just trying to give off the impression that this country, which has loads of valuable resources that could be used for a lot of things, telling the world that there has to be some further measures to ensure that the spread doesn't go further and further. It's very unfortunate that there are people, whether it be skeptical or they'll take things for face value. I'm just sick and tired of these stories, man. Also, sorry that if you guys are hearing me cough, I don't know what's going on with me, but just rest assured that I'm okay. It's not end of the world. So to end this story specifically, whatever happens, make sure that you stay informed, do your research, and take whatever measures that are necessary to ensure that you don't get infected with whatever disease or virus that exists. And even if there are diseases or viruses that is just set up to scare people, that's not to say you shouldn't be cautious. And it's certainly not to say that you shouldn't take measures to ensure that you don't get sick under any circumstances. That is the important thing to take note of. And that is it. And that is all that's been sent into the podcast group chat since the last time I recorded a podcast episode. With all that being said, let's get right into the news. Starmer says Britain will ban under 16s from using a range of social media apps. Here we go again. Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a blanket ban on social media for children under the age of 16. Introducing what he called an Australia Plus model of sweeping digital restrictions. The hardline policy targets major global platforms including TikTok, Instagram, Twitter X, Facebook, YouTube, Snapchat, Reddit, and Threads, which will be entirely legally prohibited from offering services to young teenagers. The restrictions extend far beyond standard social media apps, implementing a total ban on under 18s accessing sexual or romantic AI chatbots, and stripping stranger chat features from multiplayer online gaming platforms. New curfews will target older teenagers up to the age of 18, integrating technological feature blocks designed to entirely prevent late-night infinite scrolling and restrict late-night platform access. The landmark regulations are expected to hit Parliament before Christmas, utilising immediate fast-track powers under the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Act to bring the first wave of enforcement rules into active effect by spring 2027. Even after what's been going on in Australia, the Australian government's best efforts to prevent under 16s from using social media platforms, and yet children are still accessing social media platforms when they shouldn't be on those platforms to begin with. And the government, the UK, still believes that they can pull off such a ban on young people for social media platforms, even with the problems that are going on in Australia. And to call it Australia Plus, that's going to be someone's going to have a field day with this one. Once people find out about the issues about social media bans for under 16s don't go as according to plan, likewise with Australia. And there have been news reports actually in the mainstream media that do talk about the social media ban in Australia, that how children in Australia, despite not being at the age that they should be accessing social media, are still accessing social media. And just knowing that particular information alone, how is the UK government expected? What does the UK government believe? How their way of implementing such a ban is even going to work? Especially adding on the extra layers of preventing anyone under 18 from accessing any sexual or romantic AI chatbots. What technology is going to be put in place to prevent such young users from accessing any platforms that shows anything explicit, which that should not be viewed by the eyes of any children? Even if someone in the UK government does have ideas on what kind of technology they will implement, this would be the first ever in any place of any kind to implement such technology to prevent children from accessing platforms of any sort regarding its content. With Australia, it's just preventing under 16s from accessing social media platforms, and we all know how that and we all know how that's going. And now with extra layers implemented by the UK government that hasn't been seen or heard by the Australian government, how was anyone to believe that this time round is going to work this time, if ever? Is it even going to work? That is the question. and even and even when the technology does go into effect, who's not to say that the same exact technology used to prevent children from accessing social media platforms would also eventually apply to all adults that are old enough to access social media platforms, to apply on particular platforms displaying information which certain groups of people should not be made aware of, because that would make people question more about how their local councils, their governments, and how certain groups of people in the world are pulling strings with particular events, social gatherings, etc., etc. That's not to say that things like that will ever happen. It won't be far off if particular strains of information is limited to prevent many groups of people from knowing too much about events that would certainly go against their own interests. Justin Trudeau skipped Canada World Cup opener because girlfriend Katy Perry performed at US game. On Friday, former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau attended the United States World Cup opener against Paraguay in Inglewood, California, skipping Canada's match against Bosnia-Herzegovina in Toronto to watch girlfriend Katy Perry perform. The couple confirmed their relationship in late 2025 and made their red carpet debut in June 2026, with Perry calling Trudeau the love of my life at the Tribeca Festival premiere. Critics called the move unfortunate, accusing the 54-year-old politician of putting personal relationships ahead of the country, while social media users were divided between labeling him fraud or telling him to live your life. Addressing the backlash, Trudeau responded on social media that sometimes supportive boyfriend duties call, clarifying his attendance was personal, not political, and asserting he remains rooting for Team Canada to take the cup. Canada, the United States, and Mexico are co-hosting this year's FIFA World Cup, a tournament blending sports and entertainment, with celebrity performances like Perry's to expand global reach. Firstly, I will say, in defense of Justin Trudeau, why does anyone care? He's not even the Prime Minister of Canada anymore. if Trudeau was still Prime Minister of Canada, then yeah, fair enough. Gotta represent your nation. However, I'm not sure if Trudeau is even in the Canadian Parliament anymore. Either way, would the same attention, mentality, and criticisms apply to any other Canadian politician, or is it or is it only Justin Trudeau? Because not just the fact he was a prime minister before, also the fact that given the exit that Trudeau had, is due to his mass unpopularity as Liberal leader. And whilst it was expected, still, more so if he's no longer an MP in the Canadian Parliament, as opposed to if he is still an active politician, we have our own lives to attend to. And even if you don't agree with whatever he has said, what he has done, and whatever ideas he had before, when he was leader of the Canadian Liberal Party, honestly, it could be worse. And I've seen worse too, so not sure where else to add to this. Oh yes. Also, although it would be nice to see some familiar faces at Canada's it would have been great to see familiar faces at Canada's opening game. There's going to be some matches that will pull in more attention than others. And that's just what we have to put up with. Well, either way, as much as people disagree with the pairing, good for them. Nice to see they're doing well for themselves. And yeah, let's see what happens next with the two. Let's see when the ring is put on the finger. Or two. Japanese fans clean Dallas Stadium after World Cup opener against Netherlands. That's nice. Following Japan's 2-2 draw against the Netherlands on Sunday, June 14th, 2026, at Dallas Stadium in Arlington, Japanese fans remained to clean the stands, maintaining a tradition of tidying up after sporting events. The ritual stems from the Japanese proverb Tatsudori Ato wo Naigosasu, meaning return it the way you found it, a lesson most supporters learn as children in elementary school. Supporters have performed this ritual at every World Cup since 1998, including in Qatar and Russia, using blue bags seen during celebrations for Daichi Kamada's 88th minute goal to collect trash. Fox 4 reporter Stephen Dial documented New York Giants quarterback Jameis Winston assisting Japanese supporters with the cleanup on Sunday, capturing bottles and food wrappers being collected. Known as Ozoji, or the Great Cleanup, this cultural ritual symbolically closes a chapter. Supporters remain committed to leaving stadiums immaculate regardless of whether Japan wins, loses, or draws. That's great. Good for the Japanese. There's a reason why people like Japan. Besides being besides the anime and the cleanliness within their nation, the same can be said for the cleanliness they apply wherever they go abroad. And that is great to see. I've also seen a couple of posts on social media about the match between Japan and the Netherlands. And the joke reads along the lines of, the loser has to pay reparations to Indonesia. Well, what do you mean by that? That's awful. Why would you say something like that? It is true, though. For those who don't know the history, Indonesia had been colonized by two nations. First, it was the Dutch. And then at some point, the Japanese came over to take over the nation during World War II. And I'm not sure where the rest of the history of Indonesia comes from after that. That's just the context of the joke on social media that I've seen between the match of Japan against the Netherlands. Which one of the nations was to lose, that country had to pay reparations to Indonesia, given their history for colonization of the nation. I mean, it was kind of funny, but still, yeah, I get the joke, and I know it be someone's humor. Certainly, it's not everyone's humor, but someone would have find that funny for sure. Now, given that Japan and the Netherlands have drawn 2-2, do neither of them have to pay reparations to Indonesia, or do both nations have to pay reparations? That's something I'm not aware of, or something that's not made clear. Well, what's important is that Japan, wherever they go, they clean up stadiums and keeping things tidy, like they would expect to clean their own places in their own country. And not that it is expected of them to do so. They do it because that is what they want to do, and that is great. So yeah, W for the Japanese, wherever they go. And that is it for the episode.